My name is Lena Carter. I'm 32 years old, and for most of my life, I believed that if something came from family, it was safe. Not perfect, not always easy, but safe. That belief didn't break all at once. It didn't shatter in a dramatic moment. It eroded slowly, quietly, until one day, I realized something I couldn't unsee. The person who understood me the most was the one paying the closest attention to what she could take. I wasn't reckless. I wasn't impulsive. If anything, I was careful. The kind of person who plans before acting, who studies before deciding, who builds before showing. I had a stable job. Nothing glamorous, but consistent. Predictable income, routine, security, the kind of life people describe as good enough. And for a while, it was. But there was always something in the background, a thought that never fully went away. I didn't want to stay there forever. The business didn't start as a business. It started as a problem, something I noticed repeatedly, something small, but constant. And the more I paid attention to it, the more I realized no one was solving it properly, not efficiently, not intelligently. So I started working on it, quietly, not telling anyone. Not announcing anything, just building, research, late nights, notes that no one else would understand, testing things that didn't work, until something finally did. And when it did, I knew, not in an emotional way, in a structured way, this could work. I didn't tell people, not coworkers, not friends, because ideas, before they're protected, are fragile. But I told her, my sister, Lena Carter, because if there was one person who had always been close enough to see the real version of me, it was her. We weren't overly affectionate. We didn't have long emotional conversations, but we understood each other. Or at least, I thought we did. It was casual. That's what makes it dangerous. We were sitting in her apartment, talking about nothing important. Work, money, routine. And then she asked, "So, are you still working on that thing you mentioned?" That question should have meant nothing, but something about the way she said it made me pause. Not long, just enough to notice. Most people ask questions out of curiosity, but this wasn't curiosity. It was focus, precise, like she already knew there was something worth paying attention to. And still, I told her, not everything, but enough. The structure, the idea, the potential. And as I spoke, I saw it. That look. The one people get when they realize something has value. She didn't interrupt, didn't question much, didn't challenge anything. She just listened, too carefully. And when I finished, she smiled slightly and said, "That's actually really smart." Simple, supportive, normal. But there was something missing, something I didn't identify at the time. There was no surprise, no excitement, no reaction that matched what I had just shared. Just acknowledgement. Looking back now, that was the moment. Not when she launched, not when I found out, but right there, when she stopped seeing me as her sister and started seeing me as a source. The first time I realized she was going to take it, I didn't confront her. I didn't react. I didn't even ask questions, because by then, it wasn't about whether she would do it. It was about how far she was willing to go. So I did something most people wouldn't understand. I didn't try to stop her. I didn't protect the idea. I didn't warn anyone. Instead, I let her keep going, because if she wanted to take it, I wanted to see exactly how she would use it. And more importantly, how she would fail with it. I didn't find out from her. Of course I didn't. People like her don't announce things like that. They reveal them, carefully, strategically, in a way that makes it look like it was always theirs. It didn't come as a shock. That's the part people don't understand. It came as a pattern. Small things at first. Questions that became more specific. Observations that felt too informed. She started using language I had used. Not similar. Exact. At first, I told myself it didn't mean anything, that it was coincidence, because that's what you do when you're not ready to accept something. But then it kept happening. Again. And again. Until coincidence wasn't possible anymore. It happened on a random afternoon. Scrolling. Not looking for anything. Just passing time. And then I saw it. A post. Her name. A brand. And a concept that looked too familiar. It wasn't identical. Not exactly. Because she had changed just enough. The name was different. The colors were different. But the structure? The model? The core idea? It was mine. I didn't react immediately. I didn't call her. Didn't text. Didn't confront. I just stared at the screen, reading every word, every detail, because I needed to be sure. Not emotionally, factually. And the more I looked, the clearer it became. This wasn't inspiration. This wasn't coincidence. This was execution of something I had built. That's when it hit. Not loud, not dramatic, but deep. Because it wasn't just about the idea. It was about access. She only had this because I trusted her with it. They would call, confront, expose, demand answers, demand ownership, make it emotional, make it loud. But I didn't. Because in that moment, I realized something important. If I reacted, I would give her exactly what she needed. Time. To adjust. To fix. To protect what she had already started. So I did the opposite. I said nothing. Not to her. Not to anyone. I watched. Quietly. Because she had something I didn't need anymore. The idea. But I had something she didn't even realize existed. Understanding. Because I hadn't just thought of it. I had tested it. Broken it. Fixed it. Refined it. And that's when the situation changed completely. It stopped being about what she took and became about what she didn't have. The parts that actually made it work. I watched everything. Her posts. Her updates. Her progress. The way she explained the business. The way she positioned it. And slowly, I started seeing the cracks. She moved too fast. Because she believed the idea was the value. So she focused on visibility, launch, marketing, attention. But she skipped something critical. The foundation. And that's when I knew. Not hoped. Knew. She wasn't going to succeed with it. Not long term. Because she didn't understand why it worked. Only how it looked. She texted me 2 days later. Like nothing had happened. Hey, have you seen what I launched? I looked at the message. For a long time. Not because I didn't know what to say. But because I knew exactly what not to say. Yeah, I replied. It looks good. That was it. No accusation. No tension. Just calm. And that response confused her more than anything else could have. Because what she didn't understand yet was that I wasn't trying to stop her. I wasn't trying to take it back. I wasn't even trying to expose her. Instead, I was letting her build something on a foundation she didn't understand. And sooner or later, that kind of structure always collapses. At first, it worked. That's the part no one expects. When someone steals something and launches it fast enough, it can look like success. Her business picked up quickly, not explosively, but enough. Enough to look real. Enough to look promising. People engaged. People shared. People talked. And because she moved first, people assumed it was hers. That's how it works. Not truth. Timing. If you're the first person people see, you become the reference point. And she understood that. At least that part. It didn't take long for it to reach the family. Of course it didn't. Someone always shares something. Did you see what Maya launched? It's actually really good. She's doing something big. I heard it all. Not directly, but enough. Then came the question I knew was coming. So, aren't you working on something like that too? It was casual, innocent, unaware, but it landed exactly where it was meant to. I smiled slightly. Not exactly, I said, and left it there, because correcting them would have made me look reactive, defensive, like I was trying to claim something after the fact. And in situations like this, perception matters more than truth, at least in the beginning. Meanwhile, she became more visible, more vocal, more certain. She started explaining the business publicly, talking about her process, her idea, her journey. And every time she did, I listened carefully, because the more she spoke, the clearer it became. She didn't understand it. Not fully. She knew the surface, but not the mechanics, not the decisions behind it, not the parts that actually made it sustainable. It showed up in small ways. Nothing obvious, but noticeable. Inconsistencies, overpromises, gaps in execution, things most people wouldn't catch. But I did, because I had built it. One day, I saw a post, someone praising her, calling her innovative, saying she was ahead of the curve. I read every word, slowly, and for a moment, I felt it. That reaction. Not anger. Something sharper. Recognition without acknowledgement. For a second, I almost said something. Almost corrected it. Almost stepped in and said, "That's not hers." But I didn't. Because I reminded myself of something important. This wasn't the end of the story. It was the setup. Then she did something predictable. She scaled. Too fast. New offers. New features. New promises. Trying to turn momentum into growth. Trying to prove that it worked. And that's when I knew exactly where this was going. Because scaling something you don't understand doesn't expand it. It exposes it. Customers started asking questions. Reasonable ones. About details. About functionality. About consistency. And her answers weren't solid. They sounded good. But they weren't structured. You could see it. In her tone. In her posts. In the way she started responding. More defensive. More reactive. Less controlled. Because pressure reveals what's underneath. The difference between us. I had already gone through that phase. Quietly. In private. Fixing those exact problems. Before anyone ever saw it. She was going through it. In public. And the more she tried to hold it together, the more unstable it became. Not because she wasn't capable, but because she skipped the part that actually mattered. And as I watched everything unfold, I realized something that made everything very clear. I didn't need to take anything back. I just needed to wait. Because soon, everyone else was going to see what I already knew from the beginning. At first, the problems were small, easy to ignore, easy to explain. A delayed response here, a confused answer there. Nothing that looked serious. But problems don't stay small when the foundation is weak. It started with comments. Not aggressive. Just questions. "Hey, I'm a bit confused about how this works. Is this supposed to do this? Can you clarify something?" Normal. Expected. But her answers weren't. She responded quickly, confidently, but not accurately. Because confidence without understanding sounds right. Until it's tested. The pattern emerges. One question became 2. 2 became 5. Then 10. And suddenly, it wasn't isolated anymore. It was a pattern. The first real complaint didn't come loudly. It came carefully. A long message. Detailed. Explaining something that didn't work. Something that had been promised, but not delivered. And when I read it, I recognized it immediately. Because it was a flaw I had already fixed months ago. I had fixed it in private. Before anyone ever saw it. She was discovering it. In front of everyone. Instead of adjusting, she defended it. "It works as intended," she replied. And that was the moment everything shifted. Because now, it wasn't just a mistake. It was denial. People don't lose trust instantly. They question first. They wait. They give you a chance to correct. But when you don't, they start comparing. Looking closer. Paying attention. And once people start paying attention, every flaw becomes visible. More comments appeared. More concerns. More inconsistencies. And the tone changed. From curiosity to doubt. You could see it in her posts. Less confident. More defensive. More explanations. That didn't fully explain anything. Because pressure does something very specific. It forces you to reveal what you don't know. Even the family tone changed. Subtly. At first, it was praise. Now it was quieter, less certain, fewer comments, fewer mentions, because people don't like to attach themselves to something that might fail. Then it happened. A post. Not from her. From someone else. Detailed. Specific. Breaking down exactly what wasn't working. Not emotional. Factual. Clear. And impossible to ignore. That post spread. Not explosively, but enough. Enough to be seen. Enough to be questioned. And once something like that is out there, you can't control how far it goes. She tried to address it. Long explanation. Defensive tone disguised as professionalism. But it didn't land, because people had already seen the gap. That's when it became obvious. Not just to me, to everyone watching. She wasn't in control of the situation anymore. She was reacting to it. I had already gone through every failure she was facing. Quietly, before anything was public. She was going through it now. With an audience. It didn't happen with a big collapse. It happened in a small moment. A comment she didn't respond to, because she didn't know how. And that silence said more than anything else could have. By then, it wasn't about whether it would fail. It was about how visible the failure would be. And as everything started to slip, I finally did something I hadn't done this entire time. I started preparing my own launch. Not to compete. Not to prove anything. But to do one thing. At exactly the right moment. I didn't rush. That's the difference. While she was reacting, I was preparing. Most people think revenge is about action. It's not. It's about timing. Because if you move too early, you look defensive. If you move too late, it doesn't matter anymore. So I waited until the moment where nothing she did could fix what was already breaking. Her business was still active, still visible, but no longer stable. People were questioning, comparing, pulling back. Not dramatically, but enough. Enough to weaken trust. And once trust starts weakening, it doesn't recover easily. Before I did anything, I reviewed everything one last time. My version, the one I had built quietly, tested, adjusted, refined. Every flaw she was facing, I had already solved. Every question people were asking, I already had answers for. Not guesses. Solutions. When I launched, it wasn't loud. No dramatic announcement. No emotional message. Just clarity. A clean release. Structured. Direct. And most importantly, complete. People noticed. Not because I told them to. Because they compared. Naturally. Without being asked. Where hers was confusing, mine was clear. Where hers had gaps, mine had structure. Where hers created questions, mine answered them. It didn't explode. It shifted. Gradually. People started mentioning it. Then recommending it. Then choosing it. And the most important part? I never mentioned her. Not once. Because comparison is stronger when it happens in people's minds. Not in your words. She saw it. Of course she did. There was no way she couldn't. Same space. Same audience. Different execution. She texted me. For the first time since everything started to fall apart. I think we need to talk. I looked at the message. And for a moment, I remembered who she used to be. Before all of this. Before the decision. Before the choice she made. No, I replied. Simple. Final. Because there was nothing left to talk about. Not anymore. The conversation had already happened. Just not in words. Her business didn't disappear overnight. It faded. Slowly. Less engagement. Less trust. Less presence. Until it became something people stopped mentioning. Mine didn't explode either. It grew. Steadily. Predictably. Because it was built on something real. She took the idea. She took the timing. She took the credit. But she didn't take the understanding. And in the end, that's the only thing that actually mattered. I never told anyone what she did. I never exposed her. I never tried to take anything back. Because I didn't need to. The outcome spoke for itself. And the truth doesn't need to be announced. When it becomes obvious. After that, There was nothing left to prove. Not to her. Not to anyone. Because the difference was already visible. Life didn't become dramatic. It became clear. No more questions. No more comparisons. Just results. Mine kept growing. Not fast. Not loud. But steady. And hers? It became something people used to mention. Past tense. For a long time, I thought what hurt the most was the idea. But it wasn't. It was the moment I realized. She saw an opportunity. Where I saw trust. That difference changes everything. Someone brought her up casually. Didn't your sister start something like that? I paused for a second. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I realized it no longer mattered. She tried, I said. And that was enough. I saw her once after everything ended. Not planned. Just unavoidable. She looked different. Not physically, but in the way she carried herself. Less certain. Like someone who had lost something, but couldn't fully explain what. She hesitated before speaking. I didn't think it would turn out like that, she said. Honest. For the first time, I looked at her, calm, and said, you didn't build it. No anger. No accusation. Just truth. Because that was the part she never understood. It was never about the idea. It was about everything behind it. The failures no one saw. The decisions no one questioned. The time no one noticed. She nodded slowly. Not arguing. Not defending. Because there was nothing left to defend. She thought she had taken something from me. Something valuable. Something that would give her an advantage. But in the end, she didn't take anything. She skipped the process. And that's the only part that actually creates value. I didn't fight her. I didn't expose her. I didn't try to win. I just let her go first. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is let someone reveal exactly what they don't understand. She stole my business idea, so I let her launch it first. And that's how everyone learned the difference between having an idea and actually knowing what to do with it.